The Infinix GT50 Pro is a gaming-focused smartphone with proper liquid cooling, has RGB LEDs, gaming triggers, offers a Magcharge cooler, and more, with a starting price of around just $370 US. That's about half the price of the only other proper liquid-cooled gaming phone that I'm aware of, the REDMAGIC 11 Pro, and that's already well priced, so at just $370, that is serious bang for buck. But is it actually worth it? Well, for an extra $30, you can pick up the cooling edition, which is what I have here. Inside the box, you get the phone box, which includes the phone, a cable, a charging block, and a hard-shell mag case. The other box also includes a cable, but more importantly, it bundles in the GT Magcharge Cooler 2.0, but since the phone itself doesn't have magnets, you need to use the mag case that comes with the phone. It has a pretty strong magnetic hold, has some flashy RGB LEDs, and you guessed it, has an active cooling fan built into it, with a fan speed of 5,700 RPM. There's a button on the side to enable or disable the 15-watt wireless charging feature, and for the first time ever, apparently, it offers wireless bypass charging. But the wireless bypass charging feature is only possible with that optional Magcharge cooler. And like I just mentioned, it can only charge with that cooler at 15 watts, wirelessly of course, even though the phone itself actually supports 30 watt wireless charging. It also supports 45 watt wired charging, and its battery now sits at 6,500 mAh, which is a nice upgrade from last year. The phone doesn't have a built-in cooling fan, but it does have built-in liquid cooling, which you can physically see on the back of the phone, just like with REDMAGIC's recent flagship. It's called HydroFlow liquid cooling, which is powered by a dual ceramic micro pump, and you can adjust the flow rate in settings. Cooling in general has stepped up too, with Infinix's largest ever 3D vapor chamber and a bunch of other cooling components to keep the phone as cool as a cucumber throughout those long gaming sessions. The phone also now includes Pressure Sense GT triggers, which are apparently the industry's first open-cut triggers, offering a stronger, more responsive feel, and they honestly feel great. They also double up as customizable buttons and can even be used for camera control. There's customizable RGB lights on the back plates, but there's no other LEDs around the phone. The good news is that they can be permanently enabled or even set to change effects when in a game. The overall design is subjective, but its retro lines are symmetrical and there's a sense of carbon fiber, but the backplate is actually made from just plastic. The side rails are also plastic, but they almost feel metal and are completely flat, just like the back. There's an IP64 certification, so it's splash-proof, and the screen is protected by Gorilla Glass 7i. There's an always-on display, but it can only be shown for 5 seconds, so it's not exactly always on, and there's an under-display fingerprint sensor too, but it's optical and positioned a bit too low for my liking. The display itself is a flat 6.78-inch AMOLED panel with a 1.5K screen resolution, has an impressive 4,500 nits of peak brightness, 2304 Hz PWM dimming, an instant touch sampling rate of 2,800 Hz, and a 144 Hz refresh rate, but it's LTPS, not LTPO, so it can only drop down to as low as 30 Hz. That's the exact same display as Infinix's more expensive flagship Note 60 Ultra phone. And the GT50 Pro uses the exact same chipset too, that being the 4nm run MediaTek Dimensity 8400 Ultimate, which boasts an all-big core design and has a max clock speed of 3.25 GHz. It's pretty much a sub-flagship level chipset, so benchmark scores won't break any records, but the phone feels just as snappy as any other flagship I've tested. There's also 12 gigs of LPDDR5X RAM, up to 512 gigs of UFS 4.1 storage, and Infinix's self-made dedicated N1 networking chip to ensure stable network connectivity all the time. There's also now a dedicated gaming hub called X Arena, which neatly stores all your games, allows you to adjust settings for each individual game, and of course includes a gaming panel when in a game to adjust settings on the fly, where you can toggle on performance mode, adjust the GT triggers, liquid cooling, touch optimizations, haptic feedback, and so much more. There's a bunch of ways to customize the triggers, but my go-to is single press for a more controller-like feel. They're very responsive and feel fantastic, especially with subtle haptics built into them. My only gripe is the lack of an on-screen stats monitoring tool to measure things like frames per second and temperature, but I guess there's always third-party apps for that. So let's actually play some games. First up, I tested out Genshin Impact, and unfortunately there is no frame interpolation feature allowed in the game panel for this game, so we're capped at the game's native FPS of 60. However, even with all graphical settings maxed out in-game, the GT50 Pro managed to average a solid 60 FPS the whole time playing, which is definitely flagship level. Next up, we tested out Wuthering Waves, and again there is no frame interpolation feature option, even though this game does offer it inside the actual game settings menu for some devices, so hopefully this phone gets support for it soon. This game has a limited frame rate of 60 as well, but Wuthering Waves is a lot more demanding to run. It's pretty much the benchmark for mobile gaming, so I was happy to see it average between 50 and 60 FPS the entire time. The phone did warm up quite a bit in hand, but a lot less so than other flagships that push out more power without liquid cooling. And then lastly, we played Call of Duty Mobile, which isn't exactly the most demanding game to play, but thankfully Infinix managed to get full support from Call of Duty for its 144Hz display. So yes, the 144 FPS option is available in the game settings menu, but only when set to the medium graphics preset. But even with super resolution enabled in-game, the device managed a steady 142 FPS on average. Haptic feedback is just okay when using the phone normally, but it feels very much flagship level when gaming. And while the dual speakers aren't exactly balanced, with the bottom speaker seemingly louder, they do get plenty loud overall and offer a decent amount of depth thanks to the inclusion of Dolby Atmos. So I mean, you're not exactly going to be getting the absolute best flagship performance due to its sub-flagship chipset, but it plays games like an absolute champion, and I didn't have any issues with it at all, when gaming that is. And it's also kept nice and cool thanks to that advanced cooling system with proper liquid cooling. For $370, I doubt you'd find a better gaming phone at this price, but what about all the other non-gaming aspects of the phone? Well, I mean, its screen is vivid and its bezels are quite symmetrical. It's fast and fluid, of course, but what about software? It relies on XOS 16 skinned over Android 16, and while out of the box it's very gaming themed, it's easy enough to get it looking more like a normal phone thanks to plenty different customization options and settings. Software itself looks clean and most of the pre-installed bloatware can be removed. There's adjustable folders, folder scrolling, and even interactive widgets. There's a huge fleet of AI features, and while you can set Gemini as your default assistant, the built-in Folax AI assistant is actually really cool, as it includes all major AI models without needing to download additional apps or subscribe to any additional services. There's Circle to Search as well, but there's something called Zero Screen instead of Google Discover to the left of the home screen, and I'm not too sure how I feel about it. Infinix are also promising 3 years of major OS updates and 5 years of security patches, which is good to see. There's also an IR blaster, NFC and dual SIM 5G, but unfortunately there is no eSIM support. Okay, so there's one thing left to cover. The cameras. There's a 13 megapixel selfie camera, a 50 megapixel main with OIS, and an 8 megapixel ultra-wide with autofocus. So nothing really to write home about. Thanks to autofocus, there is a macro mode which uses the ultra-wide sensor and it does the job, but not exactly well. The main camera is significantly better than the ultra-wide and the 2x crop in came out much better than expected. There's of course no telephoto camera here, but 5x digital zoom still looks decent and max 15x zoom isn't terrible. Selfies come out great too, and edge detection is surprisingly good in portrait mode. Selfies at night also surprised me, but again the main takes much better photos than the ultra-wide, and the 2x crop continues to do a decent job. Max zoom is again not terrible, but ultra-wide video kinda is, especially in terms of stability. Thankfully, you can shoot ultra-wide video at a 2K resolution, but detail is still kinda lacking. Exposure is still a bit off when it comes to recording with the main camera, and so is stability, but detail is certainly better thanks to the ability to record in 4K 60 FPS when using the main camera. So there is portrait selfie video, but unfortunately it's capped at 1080p 30 fps. However, you can record video, selfie video that is, at 4K 30 fps when just recording regular selfie video, which is also good to see. So let me know your thoughts of the video quality as well as the microphone performance. Selfie portrait video is very shaky since the stability mode doesn't work with portrait video mode enabled, but regular 4K selfie video looks great, aside from the huge crop in when enabling steady video. Ultra-wide video is quite grainy when filming at night, and while detail and stability is still lacking, it doesn't look too bad when there's a good enough light source. Main video isn't as grainy at night, but noise grain is still noticeable. Panning isn't the smoothest either, and flickering is a problem too, but again, with enough light in the scene, main video actually comes out surprisingly clear, as long as you can look past the subpar stabilization. I mean, this phone isn't exactly targeted toward camera enthusiasts, and its cameras are fine. I mean, it's a gaming phone, so I wasn't expecting groundbreaking camera performance, but for the occasional photo here and there, it does a decent job. Software is more than decent at this price tag too, but this phone really is targeted toward gamers on a budget, and I feel like they have absolutely nailed it. It might not have the best chipset around, but it smashes pretty much any game you throw at it. Offers very nice pressure triggers, keeps things cool with proper liquid cooling, has an optional Magcharge cooling fan, which will only cost you an extra $30, and offers wireless bypass charging. Wireless charging is very good to see at this price point, and its battery size is larger than most. It has a very premium looking display with all the necessary specs you need, and while its build quality isn't quite bulletproof, it still feels solid in the hand and looks aesthetically pleasing thanks to those RGB lights and visible liquid cooling. So should REDMAGIC worry? I mean, I don't really think so. I mean, don't get me wrong, this phone offers a lot of the same features as the flagship REDMAGIC 11 Pro, including physical liquid cooling, which you can actually see, and all the RGB lights, and it's literally half the price as REDMAGIC's best offering. But you'll be missing out on premium build materials, a built-in physical cooling fan in the phone itself, as well as under-display selfie camera for that all-screen experience. And you're also going to be missing out on a flagship CPU. But if those things don't really matter to you and everything that you saw in this review is exactly the phone that you want, or you just have less money to spend, then I really don't think that you will find a better, proper, liquid-cooled gaming phone with touch triggers than this for this price. As always, this is TechNick, and I'll catch you in the next one. Oh, so this is the new studio, by the way, but we have different backgrounds there and there and there. So next video, maybe there'll be something different. Peace.